Hey everybody, Samuel Jones back with a new video. This is an update on the Remington Model 11 Defender. If you guys remember, I bought a Model 11 back in January, and I decided to turn it into a personal defense, home defense, SHTF, zombie, what have you, shotgun. And I had a good time doing it. It was a pretty fun project. I've always wanted to work on one of these shotguns, and like I said before, I wanted this to be my first auto shotgun. And I really enjoyed it, but there were a couple of things that had to be done to fix a few issues that I came across from my from since the last video I had on the project. So there are a few things I added. There's a little bit of gunsmithing footage in this video, so I'm going to do a run through of just some of the things I had to do to this gun. First thing I want to start with is this side saddle that I purchased at a gun show. Here's a card of the man who made it. It's R&J SP, Hand Stitched Leather Products. See if I pronounce his name right. Joe Creocamp. If you're in South Carolina, you go to any of these shows, look for the guy who looks a bit like Charles Bronson. Well, there's his information right there. Give him a shout out. But I have several of his leather goods, one holster, and a couple of side saddles for other shotguns I have. But I decided to get this side saddle, hold 7 shells. An idea I had before was to mount a side saddle to the side of the receiver, but because of the profile of the receiver, I wouldn't be able to securely put a side saddle on it. Maybe if I did, I know Takstar has a slim model, I could get away with that, but there were a couple of holes I wouldn't be able to, I wasn't comfortable with drilling. And so I decided to go with a leather one, and I think the leather one, the leather side saddle goes well with the leather sling that I have attached to the shotgun. And again, there's the card of the man who I bought it from. Let's see, zoom in a little bit. And this thing is pretty secure, feels very comfortable. This section is actually very smooth. And what's cool is I didn't have to do this, but if I wanted to, I could dye this leather. But so far I like the way it blends in with the grain of the stock. So the next mod I did was I relocated this Wilson Combat sling plate over the magazine tube extension rather than having it between the magazine tube extension and the forearm. I highlighted that before, but it was causing some issues with shells being fed reliably inside the magazine tube, and that's because there's a gap that's created with this plate being between the magazine tube extension and the forearm. So to eliminate that, I just went ahead and put the magazine tube, threaded on, and like I said, slid this plate down over the magazine tube extension. And so it has a little bit of, it swivels a little bit, but it's nothing, not an issue. It still does, still functions as it should. I also found this Takstar rail mount for the magazine tube extension or magazine tube, depending on what type of shotgun you have. What I like to do is I like to get a flashlight that's low profile. This is the one I had on there before. I took this off my first AR-15, and it looks alright on the AR, but it kind of sticks out, when it's attached to the shotgun. I don't like how how it's not really streamlined with the profile of the gun. So I figured I'd take it off, and I'll save up for a time where I can get a flashlight that's more my liking. Alright, so the next mod I had to do was I had a brass bead sight threaded into the barrel. Well, the problem with that was it was too low, and so I was shooting considerably high, especially when I was shooting slugs. And it came to a point where the bead sight flew off the barrel as I was shooting, and I decided to, I'm not even going to try to reuse this bead sight. What I'm going to do is to fix the sight problem, I had to find the bolt to thread it into the barrel, cut everything short. I used the gas welder to weld over it and smooth everything down with a file. And I went ahead and ordered from Numeric Arms Remington Model 11 sight base, so like a front sight ramp. As you guys see right there, so it has the Remington. Basically it's like a standard front sight post or sight ramp that they have on many of their shotguns, and what it does is it brings the bead sight up high enough to where it can be seen, and it doesn't affect accuracy. While I was at it, I couldn't find. I didn't have a bead sight, so the one that flew off the gun, I actually wound up using it for a friend's shotgun. He had a Stevens Model 67E. It didn't have a bead sight on it, so I went ahead and used that. And to fix this problem, I went online, and so brass bead sights, they come in different sizes. And they run. Like, I think the one I bought cost around $6.99. So me being the inventive type, I decided to go a different route. So the next mod I had to do was I had to get a new bead sight. So if you guys remember, the bead sight I had on it before was threaded directly onto the barrel, and that created some issues. First off, the original barrel had a front sight ramp that raised the bead sight. Now, when I cut the barrel down, I wasn't able to get the front sight ramp off the part that I cut off, because it was actually part of the barrel. It wasn't soldered on or anything. So instead, I just drilled the hole and threaded a bead sight on the barrel. That sight was too low, which meant I had to raise the muzzle up. And when I was shooting slugs at the range, I was shooting way too high. And then it came to where the last time I shot the shotgun, because I figured, well, I mean, I probably won't even use this thing for slugs. I'll just stick with buckshot and birdshot. When I was at the range, the bead sight flew off, and I figured, you know what, maybe I have to come up with a different way to fix this problem. So what I did was I got a bolt from a junk pile, and it fit the same. It had the same thread pitch that was made for the original bead sight. I cut it down to size, and I used I used my gas welding kit, oxyacetylene kit, to weld a bead on top of that. Smooth it out with sandpaper, or rather with a file, then sandpaper, and then also I took a Dremel tool and I smoothed out the portion that stuck into the barrel, so that everything was so that everything would be smooth on the inside. After all that was done, I went on Numeric Arms and I found a front sight ramp for Remington Model 1100. And, you know, this being the Model 11, there really isn't a difference between, you know, the two. So I figured I'd go ahead and it's the first time I've ever done this. I silver soldered this front sight ramp to the barrel, and it came out nice. I think it took me about an hour. This is the first time I ever silver soldered anything. I tinned the front sight ramp first, then I tinned the barrel. Well, of course, before doing it, I used flux on both parts, and just rested on top, and then use the heat to let it to level itself out, and then just go ahead and continually correct it, make sure that everything is sitting straight, and everything turned out pretty well. Now, the bead sight. So I had the bead sight that flew off. I kept it, but I used it for another friend's shotgun. He had a Stevens Model 67E, and he didn't have a front sight on it, so I went ahead and used that front sight on his shotgun, and that left me without a front sight for this gun. Well, because front sights generally, you know, they come in various sizes. I didn't know what kind I would have to use for this front sight post. And you know, and then they come around. They get, you know, bead sights generally around $6.99 or $7.99 or $15.99. I've seen them, you know, in various different prices. So I went ahead and did the inventive route. I went ahead and got some. I got some brass round stock. Let's see, I'm pretty sure the tag that's still on it. It's a 3/16 in diameter, and I cut a piece off and chucked it into my electric drill, and then, well, I turned it into a bead sight. You guys can see these kind of like notches. That happened when I tried to straighten out the bead sight on the chuck, and it wound up cutting into the bead sight, inside the bead sight itself. And since, you know, I figured I'd go ahead and leave it as is. It looks kind of cool. and I turned a bead sight. So that's the first time I've ever done it, and I think it came out very nice. After I had everything silver soldered, I press fit this with some super glue, and it has not come out, so it stays in place very well. And I think it's pretty, I think it's pretty cool. This rod, this thing only cost me about, I want to say just like maybe $8.59, something like that. And I only cut what, a quarter of an inch off of it to make this. So with some ingenuity, I was able to say, it basically saved some money, because now I can just turn my own bead sights. Which I may do a video on that to show you guys how it can be done. But yeah, if you're working on shotguns, instead of buying a new bead sight, if you can press fit it, or if you're, you can get one. If you have a thread cutter, you can go ahead and cut threads into it, or get one pre-made. It's up to you. But one day I think I'll show you how to make your own bead sight with some round stock brass. So one of the issues that I noticed is that the shotgun, when it cycles, a few times a live shell, and you've seen this in previous videos where I was testing out this shotgun, a live shell would drop out the bottom of the gun. When I found out what happened, well, what I thought was happening was that I was having interruption with the follower and spring inside the magazine tube because of the new magazine tube extension. But when I last went to the range, I only put 3 shells in the magazine tube, which is not enough to even reach the magazine tube extension, and the same thing happened. And that's why I figured that there was something either with the cartridge stop or the carrier that was acting up. And then I observed just how the carrier was interfacing with the shell. Now this is the stock carrier. This is the 2-piece one that I had installed. And as you see, I hope you guys can see that there is a good amount of space between the carrier and the snap cap. If I hold it down, if I pull back on the bolt as if the action was cycling, there's no interruption. So the snap cap is able to slide underneath the carrier without contacting it. Now that I installed the 2-piece carrier, the upgraded one, if I push down on the carrier, you now see that the carrier is now touching the snap cap. So what I figured out what was happening was, whenever I had the magazine tube loaded, the carrier, the 2-piece carrier, is significantly longer than the stock carrier, than the solid 1-piece. When the gun fires, the carrier will be holding the shell instead of letting it just go ahead and fall underneath the carrier. When it did that, it would cause the shell to get one of the shells to get hung up, and as the action closes, the shell would just spit out the bottom of the gun. So what I figured I have to do is I'll have to take off about 1/8 of an inch off this carrier, so that it freely moves between, so it can freely move up and down without contacting a live round that's being held back by the shell stop, which is also attached to the bolt. It's pretty. This guy, like I said, this is probably one of the most complex guns I've ever worked on. But when you start to understand how everything works, it all comes together pretty well. So stay tuned. Again, you can see here with the solid carrier, as I push down on the bolt release, which frees the carrier up. It does not move. It does not contact the snap cap, or will be a live round in this situation. As I pair the 2 carriers together, you can see the 2-piece carrier is roughly 1/8 of an inch longer than the 1-piece carrier. So basically what I do is I got to shorten two-piece to be in line with the one-piece, and we should have should stop the issue of live shells, a live shell being dumped out of the magazine during a normal operation. With a bit of work, some filing and grinding, I was able to contour the two-piece carrier to kind of match the one-piece carrier. You can see from this side, flip it around. What this allows it to do, these contours are allowed to allow for the shell to easily cycle through the action without getting hung up on any flat spots or any areas where it's there's too many sharp angles. So I'll show you guys again. If you ever find yourself having to shorten your carrier because you're using two-piece in exchange for the factory one-piece carrier, just remember to recontour, reshape this part of the front of the carrier. So I'm gonna do a function test with this slugs. Test it for you. And that's that. So far, I'd say the gun is in pretty good shape. Everything runs well. Like I said, I'm gonna shop around and see if I can get a light that will be kind of low profile that I would say fits this gun pretty well, without sticking out too much like a sore thumb. Side saddle, all the work that was done to it is pretty cool. Again, give a shout out to Joe Creel Camp. If you're ever in the South Carolina area going to a gun show, like I said, look for the guy who looks like Charles Bronson selling leather goods. But I'm very happy with, like I said, I'm happy with how this thing turns out. And if I have to do any more work to it, I'll do another follow-up video for you guys. Hopefully it helps someone who else is working on their own Model 11 to turn into something like this. But that's my video. Please leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. If you want to donate to the channel to help with projects like this, just go to my homepage on YouTube and look for the Give Up That Cheese button, and you can make a PayPal donation of any amount that you like. Any gripes, complaints, send me a PM. I'll see what I can do to address them. But that's my video. This is an update on the Remington Model 11 Defender project. I'm Edward Jones. You guys take care, and God bless.